right now, we bring to you Texas Rangers Hall of Famer Michael Young. Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Now, Mike Bassick over here is convinced that whether it was Taekwondo or karate, that you've been heavily factored into the martial arts scene. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, my goodness. It was. I got into karate and jiu-jitsu and kickboxing once my career ended. I needed more of a soft landing for the competitive thing. So got into it right when I stopped playing. Yeah, I fell in love with it.
Do you still do it?
COVID kind of slowed things down a little bit. You know that all my jiu-jitsu buddies are savages, dude. It was like height of the pandemic, and they're like, yeah, we're in here all the time now. You should come on in. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to stay home for a little bit, dude. I'm going to see how this thing goes. But slowed down a lot. My body actually feels better and worse, right? I mean, I don't get the training that I used to, but at the same time, I'm not constantly showing up to work with bruises on my face either. So that's probably a good thing.
Was that ever a good outlet for, like, I take boxing classes sometimes because sometimes I need an outlet for my anger. Was that ever a good outlet for anger that you might have had?
No, not really. You know, when I stopped playing, you know, I started actually like the year before I retired, actually. But you know, when I was done playing, it was actually the opposite for me, man. I was in a super great mood. You know, I was really happy with where I was at in my life. I was home a lot more. I was around my wife and my kids a lot more. So for me, it was just something that I was able to kind of rechannel something to do competitively, because you can't really recreate, you know, what it means to be a big league baseball player. So I need something that was going to push me out of my comfort zone a little bit. So I enjoyed all my training, man. It was a lot of fun. You know, every time I get a chance to go back in the gym and help out, it's always a great time.
Michael, my oldest kid he's into jiu-jitsu and he wants to be able to do the one finger push-up. Or is that something you were ever able to accomplish?
You know what? Honestly, that stuff is one thing about jiu-jitsu that I really love. The journey of jiu-jitsu is all about what you can really do in real life. So if I can give him any advice, I would tell him not to do the one finger push-up. I would tell him to take dude's necks and be able to squeeze them as hard as he can. That's what I'll tell him how to do it.
He's gotten that. He tried it on me, but I'm still bigger, so we're still working with that.
Well, what you'll learn in that is being bigger won't save you.
An old man strength. I still have that on him right now. So
you got dad strength. There you go. Oh, yeah, exactly. The whole point of jiu-jitsu is to be able to kind of neutralize the size advantage, right? But, yeah, you got the dad strength, so you're still good.
So, Michael, I was only around you for a minute in 2004, but always impressed with how steady you were mentally. I'm wondering inside, like you look at this Ranger season, huge up to start the year, 40-20. Just a week or so ago, it looked like they were never going to win another baseball game. That can happen throughout a season. How do you handle that as an everyday player when things aren't going your way, maybe personally at the plate, and then when things are or aren't going your way as a team?
Yeah, I think for an everyday player, it's the best way. It's easier for position players to handle that because you get another crack at it less than 24 hours later. And I think that once you have experience with that, I think a lot of times position players, at least the really good position players, they whatever happens behind them, whether it's good or bad, they seem to move on really quickly and kind of get used to focusing on what the challenge ahead is. And I think that's one thing position players really do well. I think that's the biggest challenge, I think, for any player is to make sure that he understands what's ahead of him. So when you wake up the next day, if you're in a hotel, if you're in Toronto, you're thinking about Kevin Gausman, you're thinking about my next starter. You're thinking about ways to help the team, a base running play, getting a tip from a pitcher. You're thinking about different ways that can help your team find a way to win a game. So I think it's easier for position players, especially experienced ones who have kind of gone through this stuff before, where you have a stretch where you lose some games and you can still, crank off a winning streak. I think, Corey said the other day, I think he was maybe 2017, the Dodgers had went through this awful stretch in September. I think they might have dropped like 10 or 11 in a row, and they ended up going to the World Series that year. And this was in September. So I think that, good players find a way to just really compartmentalize better than the rest of them. So,
Michael, I know a few times you'd want to speak to the team. How would you know when to do that? Would you read the body language of the team? What's you being a leader, when would you go, you know what, I think I just need to gather the guys around and talk to them right now?
Yeah, I think body language is a big part of it. Being with these guys every day, what makes them tick. And what's interesting is that when you have a good team, which this Rangers team is a good team, we all know that. That's just a fact.
Yep.
They never sometimes when you watch a game and it appears a team is flat, they're never flat because flat kind of entails lack of effort. They're usually pressing, and pressing comes across as flat. So, you pull a team in, and if you're flat, or if you're pressing and it looks flat, you pull them in a room and say, listen, we know pressing doesn't work. So today we're just going to focus on really, really simple things. Now, first of all, we're going to put this thing in neutral a little bit because, running full speed ahead into a brick wall is not working right now. And that's usually how it feels when you're pressing as a team. So I think you just throw in neutral a little bit, and that night you just go out and you focus on energy and trying to out-hustle somebody. And then you kind of let results kind of fall where they may. But usually you kind of just get something really small to focus on, come together as a group and try to accomplish it as a group. And ordinarily you kind of pull out of these things pretty quickly.
Now, obviously the Rangers wrap up with Toronto tonight. Then you got Cleveland. But starting on Monday, Rangers got the Red Sox. I'm kind of curious. The Red Sox today, they fired their chief baseball officer. As a player, I know you say the right things, and you're like, we just got to focus on the field. Is it difficult to just focus on the field when there are, office things happening like that?
Depends how you feel about the guy in the office.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I have no idea what's going on in Boston. I don't know. I know, I love Alex. I play with Alex Cora. Think the world of him as a baseball person. But as far as their front office is concerned, I really don't know what's going on over there. But again, I think as players, I think that they typically are really, really good at focusing on what works at 7 o'clock. What works those 3 hours? What do we have to do to make sure that we come together as a group? Because keep in mind, even as a baseball player, it's pretty impossible to be really good friends with all the other 24 guys on your roster or 25 guys on your roster. That doesn't really happen very often. Pretty often you're playing with guys who are nowhere near your best friend. And a lot of times, at best, you're just kind of lukewarm towards them. But you find a way to come together when it matters. And that's what really, really good teammates do.
Michael Young joining us here on the K&C Masterpiece on 105.3 The Fan, and we're lucky we get to talk to Mike a lot, Mike Bassick here a lot about baseball and what's going on. And I asked him a lot about approach at the plate, but he was a pitcher, Michael Young. What does he really know? What was the Michael Young approach when you went to the plate? What was your approach?
I think it was very count specific. That's the best way to say it. It was count specific and scoreboard specific, right? So my approach would be, if we're playing a ball game and the other team, I'm leading off an inning and they're beating us by 4 runs, I'm probably going to try and work on at bat a little bit. That way, the guy behind me has the freedom to swing it early in the count if he wants to. If we're winning by 4 runs, we can all kind of do what we want up there. So again, I think that it's very scoreboard specific. First of all, as far as what you have to do to try and get back into a game or extend a lead. But then it's, count specific, right? I'm going to take probably a different swing in a 0-0, 1-0, 2-1, 3-1 count than I will in a 0-1 or a 1-2 count. That's just the way it is. I want to make sure that I'm giving myself every chance to, if there's a guy on second base and I'm taking the same swing on a 1-2 count that I would on a 3-1 count, that's probably not going to work very well for me. I need to do whatever I can. I don't need to make smoke hot contact to knock that runner in from second base. I can get jammed on a fastball just to make sure that I stay on breaking ball away. And I had zero issue doing that. When you get behind an account, I think a lot of really, really good hitters, they get their ego and they just toss it aside and they focus on what they have to do to either get on base or score a runner that's out there.
Would you say that Adrian Beltre had a similar approach, or would you say his was a little different?
I think it was similar. Yeah. I think, one thing that I was really surprised with when Adrian came to Texas, and I think if you see Adrian's career numbers, they'll kind of support this. It's like he got really, really good at using the whole field when he came to Texas. Mm-hmm. When I played against him, he's in Seattle. His average was okay, on base okay, but he had great pull power. He can drive the ball to left field. He always kind of had that gift. But then when he came here, behind the count, Adrian was smoking balls in the right field when he got behind the count. He was letting the ball get deep so he can stay on everything the pitcher was going to throw to give himself a chance to, knock in runs or get on base when we need guys to get on base. So I think that's when Adrian's one of those real outliers or anomalies when in his mid-30s, his approach and his production really spiked. And I think it just says a lot about Adrian's talent too. He's just high baseball IQ.
So I want to talk about a very talented 21-year-old on the Texas Rangers. And I don't know how much, Michael, you've got to know Evan Carter in his minor league career now starting in the major leagues. But I think he can be, I'm not saying in 2023, but I do think he can be one of those franchise-changing players. Can you give me your thoughts on Evan Carter?
Yeah, I agree. First of all, I mean, he's a super, super talented kid, and I give our scouting department and Kip just did an incredible job with this kid. I mean, he was really, really off the radar. We took him high. We took him in the second round, and there was some criticism for this pick when it was first made. And to their credit, and especially to Evan's credit, he flies through the minor leagues because on the strength of one, he's really, really all-around great athlete, but two, he controls the strike zone incredibly well. And that's just basically like, in order to be a good hitter, that's kind of a non-negotiable, man. You've got to be able to hammer strikes and take balls. There's really, really very, very few Vladimir Guerreros out there that can just be really, really great bad ball hitters. Those guys really don't exist. And you certainly can't game plan for them. You can't game plan to develop those kind of guys. So with Evan, it's elite, like top of the scale strike zone judgment. So when he does get pitches to hit, he hammers them. And then he's constantly putting himself in good counts because he doesn't chase. And now all of a sudden you look at Evan right now. I mean, every at-bat he has is a good, solid at-bat. And this is his first week in the big leagues. Now all of a sudden he starts to fill out physically. Power develops even more. His hand-eye and the strike zone judgment gets even better as he starts facing these guys 2 or 3 times around the league. And the sky really is the limit. He really is a gifted kid. So, I mean, I give a ton of credit for him of what he's able to accomplish. For us to call him up when Adolis went down, I mean, we needed him. We needed that kind of an at-bat in our lineup. And I honestly think that those kind of at-bats, even if he's hitting 8th, 9th in the order, these kind of things have a tendency to really spark a lineup. So he's been great, man. He's been great. I'm going to love watching his development here in the big leagues.
Now, Michael, I remember, Kevin and I were a night show for a while, and we were out in Surprise, and Derek Holland was sitting up in the press box with us, and he was just like, I want to get back in the playoffs. I want to get back into playoff baseball because there's nothing like it. And he tried to describe that to us. And I really enjoyed hearing him describe the difference. And Mike was just telling us a few minutes ago, this is a football season left of baseball here. We got 17 games left before playoffs start. This stretch leading into the playoffs, can you kind of describe what this is all about, what this feeling is for you, even whenever you get in those playoffs?
It is. It's so much fun. It really is, man. When you start playing for a good baseball team, and you hear veterans talk about it all the time when they get a little deeper in their careers, they're not going to go. When they become free agents, they're not going back. They're only going to play with good teams because this is when baseball is the most fun. We've played our whole lives to try and get to certain stages of our baseball career or baseball life, and winning baseball at this level is the pinnacle of it. It's really, really incredible, man. It's fun. You push yourself. You find out what you're made of when your team takes those inevitable punches, right? And you got to figure out a way to kind of bounce back up and take a couple more and keep pushing. And the team's doing that right now. They went through a tough stretch and they go up in Toronto, which is a beast of a place to play, and they take the first 3 by convincing fashion. I mean, it's just a great job by our team to bounce back. And again, that's what winning baseball and September baseball looks like.
Now,
and then you get into October, man. I mean, go ahead. Good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say,
do not cut off Michael Young. What are you doing right now?
Your answer was so good. I wanted to jump in on the conversation. I apologize.
You're good.
You brought up a great point about winning in Toronto. I was curious, though, because if we're all being honest, about a week ago, it realistically did feel like that winning baseball chance was kind of slipping away, did it not?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't playing. They just weren't playing well. And sometimes it's really hard to kind of find reasons why, It's really difficult to – I mean, sometimes it's like there's no reason to even kind of think about the why. You just kind of turn the page, It's – again, there's really – they weren't doing anything well, right? Bullpen was kind of having some tough stretches. The offense was a little inconsistent. It was poorly timed, obviously. Not playing well in August baseball is not what you want to do. But there was still tons of baseball to be played. We still had a big series in Toronto. We still had a ton of head-to-head matches up against Seattle, right? There was a ton to look forward to. And again, when you're going through it, and obviously when I think Mike can attest to this, when you're going through it and you're watching, it feels so helpless because you have no control over the outcome, right? When you're a player, there's a sense of calm, I guess, because you do have control over the outcome. And you kind of like have a tendency just to like look at the couple things that you know you can do to try and improve your team's chances of winning and getting back to your team DNA. And I think that's what these guys are really focusing on doing right now. And it's been a lot of fun to watch these last 3 games. Again, this is what September baseball is all about. Every game is big. Every game means something. And then, tonight's another big one. The last thing you want to do is sit there and be happy with taking 3 or 4 from a good team in a really, really hostile environment. At this point now, you want to step on some throats and see if you can really, really lean on them.
Michael, I wanted us to go back in time to 2004. That was the one year I was with Texas. And I can remember getting to spring training the day that Alex Rodriguez was traded. So they were kind of clearing out his stuff and getting ready for some of the Yankees that we were getting, and one of them being Alfonso Soriano. And I can remember at the time going, well, this is interesting. Soriano and Michael Young, they're the 2 best second basemen in the American League, and I don't know what's going to happen here. And I would love for you to kind of tell the story, because I have an idea when Buck had the meeting and talking about you going to shortstop, but you were the one that had the meeting with Buck. When did you know, I'm going to go to Buck and this is all going to get resolved pretty quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I think, to be totally honest, I think I've gotten some, I've gotten a lot of, positive feedback from that one that I really don't think I deserve. I didn't want to move. I made that very, very clear with the front office. I did not want to move. Second base was by far my best position defensively. I felt like I was at a point in my career I was really, really going to take off and go on a run there at my best position defensively when I was taking steps offensively, and I was kind of had a chance to be the 2-way player that I always envisioned being at second base. And I went to spring training like you, Mike. I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew Alex I showed up the day after Alex got traded, had no idea what was going on. The team had not talked to me about it. Nothing. The only time I had talked to the team about it was when Alex was going to get traded to Boston. I don't know if you remember that part.
Yeah.
That deal fell through, and I was going to stay at second for that one. They were going to trade for another shortstop. But until that happened, I didn't know what was going to happen with this one. I had not spoken to them at all. So first day of spring training, I go to second base. Story goes to second base. Me and Story just staring at each other. It was the most awkward thing.
Oh.
Yeah, awkward thing you could imagine. Meanwhile, the front office and our staff's just like over there watching, right? And at this point now, I'm getting sort of heated just over the lack of communication. So we go about a week of us 2 at second base. Nobody's at shortstop except for like minor league invites. For a big
Manny Alexander, right?
Manny kind of started seeing Manny was a salty bet, dude. He started because Manny was at second base the first day too. Then Manny's like, screwed, I'm gonna go to short. No one's there. So Manny kind of just did the veteran thing. He's like, I'm sniffing an opportunity, and Manny started inching his way over to short. So about a week in, I go into Buck's office and I'm like, how come no one has talked to me about this? What is going on? And they said, well, this is what we decided to do. He and John were both in the office. And they said, we're going to let you and Sorry both play short this spring, and whoever wins is going to be our shortstop. And I remember I was just, in total, I was just so disappointed in that answer, man. Me and Sorry had not played. I hadn't played short since Double-A. Sorry hadn't played short since the minor leagues, and this is what we're going to do right now. So one of us is going to be chucked out of out of a position that we have earned. You know what I mean? Sorry, even though he got traded, Sorry had earned the right to be a top-level Major League second baseman. He had earned it with his play. So I went home, I talked to my wife, thought about it, and I went the next day and said, I'll do it, because I had a feeling that I was going to kind of come out on top anyway, and the last thing I wanted to do was be splitting time in spring training between short and second if I'm not going to play second at all. So that was how that whole thing went down. I said, I'll do it because I need to work. If I'm going to play short, I need to start practicing now. And I remember, I'll never forget, they kind of just looked at me and they tipped their hat, like a thank you kind of thing. And I walked out. That was it. That was the extent of those conversations. But again, man, I mean, at the time, you feel a certain way, and I'm kind of relaying to you guys how I felt at the time. Yeah. Looking back, I mean, every position I played, there was a ton of rewards from them all. If I don't play shortstop, I never would have played with Ian Kinsler. I never would have played with Story. Ian Kinsler has become one of my great, good friends, right? And if I don't play short, maybe I don't play with him, So there's so many rewards that came with switching positions. It was tough on a personal level, but so many rewards that came from it too.
Do you think that first time that you and Soriano headed out to second base together, that's where all MLB executives got inspired for the shift? Because they're like, hey, this could work.
Seriously. Yeah, exactly. I'll never forget that. One more side note, man. First of all, Sori was such a good dude, man. We all love the guy. So he, the day I do that, he comes over to my locker and I'm sitting there and just gives me this bear hug from behind. just like the biggest way. I mean, poor guy, right? He gets traded for Alex. He was with the Yankees he had been to, I think, 2 World Series already at that point in his career. So he goes from the Yankees to the Rangers. We hadn't won at all, right? So he's already like, all right, well, sweet. I go from the New York Yankees they were at the end of kind of like that late 90s dynasty that he was a part of towards the end. He comes to us, so we had like 3 90-loss seasons in a row. So that's already bad enough. And now he's got like a position question, the whole deal. So he gives me this huge hug, and then he gives me a business card to the guy that makes his suits. He's like, take as many as you want, custom suits. So anyway, I was like, yeah, I took one.
What?
So thank you.
And he said as many.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah, he's like, as many as you want. I'm like, I'm not going to abuse you. And plus, our taste in suits is a little different. So I just went with one.
Man, well, hey,
he was a great teammate, man. I love playing with that guy.
I'm sorry that Kevin cut you off
All
earlier.
right.
I really am sorry about that. But you were kind of talking October, but you have any thoughts on this stretch here? Are the Rangers, you think they're about to be heading towards a World Series? What's your feeling on this team?
You know what? It's so hard to say. I mean, I think that right now they should be incredibly confident. Obviously, losing Max is a blow. There's no way around that one. But once you start losing some guys to injuries, you kind of like have this sense of how to do it, right? There's this circle the wagons, kind of rally around each other sort of mentality that this team has been forced to have pretty much all season long, going back to when we lost Jake. So I mean, they know how to do it now. They know the field. They've lost Corey twice. They lost Evo. They've lost some guys this year for stretches at a time where they've had to adjust. They lost Josh. We've lost Adolis. Like, they know how to do it right now. So I think it's just a matter of going out there, playing great baseball. We have some guys having some really, really incredible seasons right now. I mean, I really hope that our fan base kind of appreciates it. Corey right now is Barry Bonds. It's unbelievable what he's doing right now. Marcus has had an incredible season. I mean, you have guys up and down that are really, really good. And taking a lot of pride in their performance. So I'm not going to get to October yet. There's still business to kind of handle, but I love where they're at right now, man. You want to generate as much momentum as you can into those last, 10 games. I think 7 of which are against the Mariners. I think that's how it's all going to shake out. So you want to generate as much momentum as you can heading into those games so that they can be playing their best baseball at that point.
If Shohei Ohtani didn't exist, do you think Corey Seager could have been the MVP of the American League?
Oh, I think that's a lock. Yeah, for sure. I think it'd be, Corey 1 and, Julio Rodriguez is, coming on as number 2. But yeah, you're right about the first part. There's only one Shohei Ohtani. I'm pretty sure that this is the only time any of us will ever see a dude like this ever. Just freak show baseball that's going on now. And it's a shame that it's not covered more often, man. I mean, this should be the biggest story in sports. Unbelievable. We'll never see anything like it again.
I keep having 1,000 questions for you, Michael, because you can talk about this. You were Team USA here for the World Baseball Classic, and you were telling me about how Shohei, it was kind of like, I call it Connie Mack here. I forget what they call it in California, but like he was just going out to the bullpen during the game and warming up like it was a summer league high school game.
Exactly. He was playing the game that we all knew he was going to close. And he's playing the game like you're playing like a 12-year-old boy. Like he is having their best at-bats. He's clearly their best player. And, you come out the 9th inning and it's just the game is going on. That team was really good. Every one of those, they pretty much threw a bullpen game at us. I think they used 7 or 8 guys the whole game. All of whom are big league pitchers. And the way it was all shaken down towards the end, we knew he was going to close. We were down by 1. I mean, that's how you want the World Baseball Classic to end. It really was a cool show that the players put on this year. To be a part of it was a lot of fun. With one of my really, really great buddies with Mark DeRosa, to be alongside him and meet some really, really cool people. Oh man, it really was a treat. It was a treat. That last at bat, it couldn't have turned up any better. Trouty against Ohtani with everything on the line. That was pretty damn cool.
And outstanding stuff. We really appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll talk with you again very, very soon once we do get to October.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all be good.